All right, Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Ruach Kodash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone, the men whom I've learned this truth from. And I'd also like to say Shalom and salutations to the elect that's out there preaching this word in truth and sincerity. All right, I'm the brother Shaquat, and I'm one of the brothers from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal. I'm back with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And the spirit of this lesson, or the inspiration of this lesson, came from the camp that we did yesterday, last night, right? And it was really on I wanted to focus on a point that was, or something that was mentioned, right? And I took note of it, and here it is. Uh, it's called, what was mentioned was called to memory times the Lord helped you, right? Because that's encouraging to do, right? Uh, you know what? Before I keep going, let me get this real quick. Ephesians 4 and 12. For the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Hamashiach Yahushai. Right? And that's what we do. That's what these lessons are for, right? It's to build up the elect. That's what the word edify goes into. You're building up, you're encouraging men, to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep striving, you know, um, giving them fuel, right? That's what these lessons are for, and for yourself as well, man. Uh, and that's why I'm gonna entitle this lesson "Call to Memory Times the Lord Help You," because that gives you fuel to call to memory times that the Lord came through for you, man. Because it goes to show that the Lord is with you. You know, the Lord is with you. The Lord helped you before. The Lord helped you once. The Lord can help you again. If you're in the right spirit, man. Uh, you know. Um, so let's go from there to the book of 2 Corinthians 13 and verse 5. It says, "Examine yourselves." Matter of fact, let me get that in KJV because that's the NLT. 2 Corinthians 13 and verse 5 in the KJV. It says, "Examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Hamashiach Yahushua is in you, except ye be reprobates? But I trust that ye shall know that we are not reprobates," right? So examine yourself. Self-examination is important in this truth, right? Because if you don't do it, you don't want the Lord examining you, man, because that's going to come with judgment right away, right? But you have to examine yourself. You have to look inwardly to see, am I right? You know, is what I'm doing or how I'm acting or how I'm conducting myself, is it pleasing in the eyes of Yahweh Bashim Yashai, right? You know, and that has to be constant, man. Self-examination. Oh, I'm not doing this right. Let me do this a little bit this way. Let me try to do this way. Trial and error with Yahweh Bashim Yashai. You know, and that's a part of you trying your spirit. Matter of fact, let me get that real quick. Salakia. Um, give not that. Yeah, this is Sirach, Ecclesiasticus 37:27. It says, "My son, prove thy soul and thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it." Right, a part of self-examination is trying your spirit. You know, because coming into this truth, we have eyes to see. Our eyes have been opened, literally, to see things that we did not used to be able to see in the world. Why? Because in the world, pretty much blinded us. Right? The scriptures speak about Esau being a shadow, the green bay tree, which cast a shadow upon the whole world and brought darkness upon the world. You know, he also brought darkness on the minds of the people. Right? But guess what? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemashai, we've received the breath of life. You know, the breath of life to come alive, to come out of that darkness and be guided by a light, which is Yahweh Shai. You know, to see things that are around us, man, that, you know, the average person in the world cannot see, right? And not, you know, since we could see, you know, we could use that light um, to see some of the impurities within ourselves, man, right? And then fix them, or try to work towards fixing them to the best of our abilities, man, right? You're trying your soul, see what is good for it and what is not. You're examining yourself. You know, you're putting yourself through a trial. You know, let me try it this way instead of that way. You know, and the Lord is pleased with that. Why? Because you're using wisdom. That's using wisdom. And, you know, one of the wisdom is experience, right? Because if you try something a particular way and it doesn't work, you're not going to do it like that, because you already know it's not going to work. So you're going to try to do it another way, because you got the experience from doing it, you know, the other way, right? That's wisdom right there, man, right? Um, right. And a part of self-examination too could be encouraging yourself, right? You know, self-examination doesn't necessarily always have to be negative. What the fuck? I didn't look up this word, but let me look it up in the Oxford American Writers Treasures definition. It says of the word examine, it says inspect, survey, look at, look into, inquire into, study, investigate, scan. Right? You study yourself, study your patterns, or, you know, what's good for your spirit and what's not. Study your, every time I do this, it puts me in this spirit and that spirit, so let me avoid that, because that restricts me from doing the work of Yahweh Hashem Ashad. You know, I'm taking up too much shifts at work, blah blah blah, you know, so on and so forth, right? Studying, you're investigating yourself. um it says consider, appraise, weigh up, analyze, review, vet, subjective examination, questions, to ask questions, cross-examine, put through. Let me look it up in the online etymology to see if it gives me anything different. It says put someone to question in regard to knowledge, competence. The word competence means capability, ability, competence, or skill. Inquire into qualifications or capabilities. Inspect or survey something carefully. Right, you know. So yeah, a part of examination, self-examination, could be exhortation. You exhorting yourself, right? Doing particular things that uplift your spirit, or um, you know, taking a look within and being like, yo, every time I do this, it puts me in a positive mood to where I can push out videos, so where I feel encouraged, right? And one of those things that I really want to touch on, which is the title of this lesson, is looking back at past experiences, or looking back at times where, you know, the Lord helped you out, you know, because that could be encouraging, you know, because when you know, call to memory, like, yo, I remember that time, and you know, the Lord did this for me. Yo, come on, man, the Lord is with me. You know, you can encourage yourself that way, in that way, you know, and that'll build you up. That'll give you that'll amp you up, for lack of better words. Let me get this. This is the book of Luke, 22. Verse 31, it says, and the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan had desired to have you, and that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. Right? Pray for you that thy faith fail not. And what's faith? Is belief. in Yahweh Bashima Shai. So if you already seen that the Lord, if you know, if the, because being in the truth, there's no way that the Lord hasn't shown, His hand. If you're doing the right thing, if you're in the right spirit and you're in this truth, man, there's no way that you did not experience some sort of encounter where the Lord, helped you out or showed His hand, His power, His might with to you, right? So, and you already seen that. You've seen that the Lord could deliver you in particular circumstances, right? That should add to faith to you. But recalling those memories and like pondering upon them, it's good because that could build up that feeling, and you'd be like, "Yo, that was heavy what the Lord did right there," you know. And by that, your faith is not gonna fail, right? Knowing that, if I'm put in another situation similar to that, I know Yahweh Shema Shai is going to save or to get me out of it or work His work in that situation, right? It says, but I pray for thee that thy faith fail not, and when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren, right? So these experiences that you go through, these different things that the Lord takes you through and delivers you from, guess what? Those are supposed to be talked about, right? Those are supposed to be talked about, right? Because that's a part of you glorying in Yahweh Bashim Ashai, glorying in the fact that, hey, it wasn't me that delivered me. It was Yahweh Bashim Ashai that delivered me. This is how He did it. Da, da, da. You could do it the same for you, brother. If a brother's faith might be, if a brother's going through a particular situation, but that's a part of exhortation, building up that brother and encouraging him, man. And I believe, when the scriptures say Apollos watered and Paul planted, Apollos watered, because if I remember correctly in the Acts, when Apollos was on the scene, it spoke about how he had a very courageous and inspiring spirit. Like when he spoke, it moved you. Like it's pretty much like the motivational speakers today, right? But that's what we're to do for the brothers with our experiences. And he was probably going in. He's like, "Yo, the Lord," he's encouraging. His speech and what he was saying was captivating, man. It captured attention and inspired people, most likely, right? But that's what it is. That's how you're supposed to speak about the things that you go through, and how the Lord delivered you amongst the brethren. All right, so let me get this real quick in the book of 2 Samuel. Because King David did this. King David called to memory times where the Lord helped him, uh, which amplified his faith, so to speak, which kept his faith firm and strong in Yahweh Shemashai, knowing that the Lord could do it again. 1 Samuel 17. So I'll in verse, start at 31. Yeah, I'm going to build it up a little bit. 1 Samuel 17. Verse 31, it says, And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war, from his youth. Yeah. It says, that reminds me of, because Saul was a Benjaminite, right? Benjamin, they like that word, that phrase, Mayu. Yeah, Mayu. That just came to mind. It says, verse 34, And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep. Right, so Saul's like, yo, King David, you're nothing but a kid. You're a Mayu. How you think you're gonna fight somebody that's been fighting from his youth? And you're only a kid, you barely have any experiences. But then listen to King David's answer. And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock, and I went after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he had defiled the armies of the living power. David said, moreover, the Lord Yahweh that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and Yahweh be with you. So what did King David do? He called to memory, Yahweh Shemashai dealing with him before. Because King David's like, yo, the Lord was with me when I was fighting lions and bears and protecting the sheep, my father's sheep, from the lions and bears. You don't think the Lord's going to deliver me from this uncircumcised Philistine, this unclean guy? You know? So that's an example right there of King David calling to memory the Lord helping him and using it as fuel, to keep going, or to boost himself up. To be like, yo, the Lord did this once, the Lord could do it again. Hey, so with that, I hope this lesson was edifying. In closing, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai, Ba'ashim, Ruach HaKodesh. Once again, double honors to my teachers, the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Until next time, Shalom.